How are you this morning?
Doing well.
Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you for joining us with Community Connections, Resources, and Gardening. I have the pleasure of having Farmer Dominique Nell. Um, how are you today, Farmer Nell?
I'm well. Thank you. How about yourself?
I am well. I am well. So I invited you on the show because you are inspiration to many. And I've been researching you for a while, but I also have actually gone down to Be More Green. I actually came down and volunteered a couple times with Sarah, where I got to bring my godson down there as well, and got to see the different work that you, Sarah, Jarrell, and your team are doing. But what was really impactful to me was that you did it in a different way. You used, um, well, one, I appreciate your boldness. I appreciate your tactfulness, but I also enjoy the fact that you're using um, gardening, farming as a way of educating people of how to eat healthy, how to grow food, but also putting that on the platform in a way, well, in my opinion, is putting it in the face of people who are decision makers who don't always necessarily make decisions, right decisions, especially in the city with food deserts. It seems like it's easier for, this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion that stores leave certain areas, and when people have to travel a huge distance to go to get food, um, prices go up, and in most cases a lot of our constituents in those cases don't have that extra money to keep going to, I'm going to say it like this, Giant or Safeway, who constantly increase their prices. I actually went to Safeway, and potatoes $8. I've never had potatoes for $8. Um, so for you, I wanted you to kind of give us the reasoning for why you created all of these different entities: Be More Green, City Weeds. Um, I'm going to give you the platform to tell us your entire story.
Oh, not sure how much time I
We have
have
an
with you.
hour. We have an hour, but we're good.
So, I mean, in short, because I can get all over the place with it.
That's fine. You got time.
Um, realistically, because um, it's easy to say that there's a need, but a lot of my work with the organization for my kids was in the um, was in the arena of behavioral therapy and
Mm-hmm.
clinical mentoring.
Okay.
And so when we talk about from uh, logistical standpoints, like
Mm-hmm.
um, when you add ingredients to an equation or a recipe, or just looking at everything the same, like looking at a forecast, like a recipe,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at environment and how you this plus this divided by this equals this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of like reverse engineering, well, why do people behave like this? Well, studies show when people eat such and such and such and such, they lack XYZ. And then I just started seeing like a whole paradigm of um, let's just say my counterparts, the ignorance that they had, and when it in terms of, excuse me, just information in general. And
Mm-hmm.
so when it gets down to what people will be willing to listen to and willing to change, food was always like a barrier. It was always, from one reason or another, whether it was cultural, whether
Mm-hmm.
it was conditioned through our conditions as a people here in this country,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all of that wrapped into one. And so, and then now you have health disparities.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, for me, it was less about oh, well, I need to be a farmer. I need to do this for the community per se.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking the tools that I had learned in my lifestyle that allowed me not to, and I'm gonna walk gently on this, not to have the same ignorance
Mm-hmm.
as my counterparts, and have a, and I had a different privilege of information system. So okay, so because my grandmother was my first grade school teacher, and I
Mm-hmm.
spent summers in from Pennsylvania to Virginia with family that owned land and had gardens, and things were second nature to me. Horses, climbing trees, go outside and pick such and such, go outside and pick a switch off the tree, go outside and pick something off the garden. You know what I'm saying? All of those. I grew up with folk who raised the folk that raised me. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that was so much of a privilege um, when I got older because there was a lot of information that wasn't downloaded and a lot of other people. It wasn't I was programmed and wired differently, literally, and it wasn't to my advantage until I was able to notice these things in community. So that's how the story kind of goes from like full circle from like one one guy's journey and seeing like the social plights and how I was different from my friends. I didn't necessarily grow up eating pizza. I didn't grow up eating the same hamburgers and things of that nature. So there was always a gap. I was allergic to milk, allergic to nuts. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of had me reading the ingredients of what, I'm talking about like since as early as I could read, I'm looking at what's in the ingredients or something. And there was things I didn't eat and there was things I couldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So that lifestyle kind of built like the plant-based conscious lifestyle by default. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I get to an adult age, um, I'm able to see the benefits of certain things that I never put in my body. And then I'm also able to see um, when I decided to try certain things, certain foods, and certain um, substances, like that they classify as food. Then my body started having certain reactions immediately. My body wasn't conditioned for um, the typical American diet, let's just say in the 80s and the 90s. And so all of that in a boring way led me to this journey as far as well, people say, how did you start doing that? If these things were a lifestyle, like me seeing something in the garden, even when I would come home to my grandmother's house, like, city from the city to the country, and then everywhere in between. My relatives had gardens. They were growing something, whether it was a tomato patch in the back, vines hanging, or cucumbers. It was something that we were eating throughout the day that came from some ground that was near the house. So that didn't, and so now we fast forward to, let's say, 2015, and the city goes through unrest, and from the post, it's incidences from the timely death of Freddie Gray due to police brutality and
Mm-hmm.
mishandling. So now um, I'm a photographer, I'm a videographer, so I was doing youth programming with some youth in the Penn North area, and we're taking
Mm-hmm.
pictures of vacant buildings, and we're taking pictures of murals that are going up on the wall, and all what we have on and all that they have in common are these vacant lots that are next to it. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
vacant lot here and there's a vacant lot there, and so now that becomes our conversation with the youth. And now I'm projecting like, hey, they need to be doing this, and why aren't they? I'm kind of and asking them questions. Well, what would you do with this, and how would we repurpose this? And that kind of was like the groundwork for what became City Weeds. Farmer Nell was already in me as a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I added, growing microgreens and then going out the strength of love and working with um, the guys that were coming home back into society. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just really humbled myself and just moved with the spirit, if that makes sense. And like,
No, it makes
just,
plenty of sense. Now tell us more about City Weeds and Be More Green, and where you're located.
Okay. So City Weeds is the name of the business, and
Mm-hmm.
started off at, seeing these vacant lots, and those are city weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at the 30 plus years that I've been working with youth in the inner city, and they're like city weeds, you know what I'm saying, themselves. And so, and then I'm growing microgreens indoor. So they like city weeds once again, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to grow microgreens from City Hydro
Mm-hmm.
down in Fells Point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing photography for the School of Food,
Mm-hmm.
which was an initiative under City Seeds.
Okay.
So as I was taking photography for the School of Food, I was actually attending the School of Food and graduated the School of Food as being their photographer. And so I was kind of saying, and I'm growing microgreens, learn how to grow microgreens at the same time. So I kind of made a joke. I said City Seeds plus City Hydro
Mm-hmm.
equals City Weeds, meaning like
Mm-hmm.
seeds and water equal weeds to a
Mm-hmm.
degree. And I'm like, I should, and these are two, from my respective experiences with them, these are two white-led organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So I intentionally, my verbiage was like this is the black version of similar, of some of the modalities of these white organizations that I learned from.
Mm-hmm.
And not to distinguish them only for the sake of for context. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to show up as something that I'm not. Like I'm like everything that I'm doing is related to indigenous people or people of color and
Mm-hmm.
people in the neighborhoods and I'm a justice warrior, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So my distinguisher from a human nature doesn't come on.
Mm-hmm.
However, from what I've learned and what has been done to, in some cases, myself, family members, and our people as a culture, I defend the injustices of the people of color because I fall into that category. I think that if I was white, I would probably be doing the same thing. Or if I showed up differently, like how some, you know what I'm saying? I feel as though that the being inside me would still be a version of this. However, I'm in this packaging. And so I'm going to stand up for those that are similar to me, look similar to like me, have similar to worse experiences as myself. But I'm not going to not include the DNA that took it to get me to this point and the people that helped me and what they looked like. You know what I'm saying? I think that needs to be said so I can be in full transparency. So if someone was looking up to me, they have an opportunity to not look up to me for that, for whatever they're, you know what I'm saying? I want to give everybody a fair assessment of like, okay, how did this guy do this? What happened behind the scenes? Um, is this an extension of City Seeds? No. Um, was it an extension of City Hydro? No. It
Mm-hmm.
was similar to both because I learned from both. But City Weeds is a black owned business, LLC, that
Mm-hmm.
partners with nonprofits to do community work and youth programming. And
Mm-hmm.
so the next leads up to Be More Green, which Be More Green was created to be the youth programming of City Weeds.
Okay.
And so my first school I was into for after school program was Robert Coleman Elementary. And we did after school program. We did gardening. We did yoga with the youth. Um, excuse me. And that's where the Be More Green mission started.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, since we're being transparent and mindful, City Weeds going into a school, I didn't have the verbiage to explain it as eloquently as I do now. And in 2016, the narrative of the conversation of weed or weeds, I didn't I didn't I didn't feel comfortable going into the elementary school saying like city weeds.
Mm-hmm.
So Be More Green was created. It was something that was more of a statement. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the Cub Scouts to the Boy Scouts, as I kind of explain it. It's the training of city weeds. It's really not too much different. It's just in a curriculum format that addresses ages 4 to 24 and anybody beyond that. But that's where the brain is being developed, and cognitive learning is crucial. So that's my focus. That's the fertile soil that I focus on planting the seeds of information, and which is Be More Green. Now, fast forward to now, I have Be More Green is a storefront on North Avenue. And we have the raised beds, utilizing a vacant lot right behind our building. So all of that, 2015, 2016, what about this, and who's doing that, and why don't they do this, and this could be done with that. I'm able to thankfully say that I have a mission or a version of it in my own corner store. We're partnering with For My Kids on top of us. So we have a resource center. We have youth coming in and out. We have their parents and other people coming in and out of the center. We're doing food giveaways every week. And food, my food is produce only, fresh produce. Like I said, we got stuff growing in the raised beds in the back. That's all youth. Like, I taught them how to do it, and I told them as aesthetically pleasing as I like my things to look, it's their responsibility to cut the grass. It's their responsibility to tend to all of the things. So now finally I made, not that it was the goal, but now I can look back and actually see some of the work being done and not being the only one doing the work, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
And so like that's where Be More, so City Weeds products now are being sold at the Be More Green store. We do a lot of events there too, so it's not a traditional corner store. We did an event last night. We partnered up with the Black Arts District as well as the Baltimore Scene. And we do a monthly networking event that's free for the community. We always have a different photographer that we feature each month that does free photos and free photo shoots for anyone that will want to come up to the event. The events have workshops to bridge the gap with this information. So it's almost like a dream come true. And what I mean by workshops, yesterday, it was we had an accountant come in and break down the difference between a nonprofit organization and a profit organization. Stuff like stuff that's not second nature to most people in these communities. Last month we did the art of a pitch, teaching them how to pitch an idea, a project, a presentation, and how to do that with worksheets. So you get in your groups and you figure something out, and we're going to do that. So before we even get to the party music side of the event, we're doing a workshop. We always have vendors in there selling their wares and their products. And it's an open mic for community. So anybody wants to come up there that needs help, needs resources, or has helpful resources for the community, we invite them to come up there, bring their cards, their information, anything the case may be. And then even down the month before that, grant writing was the topic. And so making sure that everybody in the community has access and privy to the information. Right? So these are the words that I was using in the beginning when I'm looking at what I knew and what others didn't know. And now what do I do with that? It's not like nanny boo boo. I know more than you. I couldn't. That's not in me to operate like that. And me knowing all of these things for years and them not being necessarily helpful for no one else but me, or maybe not even me, it felt like that's the reason why I learned a lot of these things, or how to do a lot of these things, so that it can be passed on to the next generation from an older generation. Like I said, I was raised by them older folks, that I got information from like the 1870s and you know what I'm saying, and further back. But we have family conversations that, I have relatives that their biological grandparents were born in the 1800s. You know what I'm saying? Biological grandparents, not great grandparents. You know what I mean? So 1860 wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? Like, in 1980, it felt like 1960 was a year ago. So in the 80s, I'm growing up thinking Martin Luther King and all of that stuff is history, literally, which was only 20 years that really passed.
Mm-hmm.
And then so now we're in 2022, and the information that I have directly from my family members and photos and documents and treaties and all of that stuff that go back to the 1600s,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's coming from people that were alive in the late 1800s. So all of that to say what? That's how we got our information, was from each other. It was a each one teach one type, from reading to writing to farming to putting seeds in the air and the boats and the ships when we were traveling, back and forth across the big lake, as they say. And you know what I'm saying? So all of that, it's ancestral. So when I tapped into my ancestors, I told people that I literally need to just wake up in the morning and move my feet, because my hands are doing things that my brain didn't formally learn how to do. So when people say, "How do you know how to do this? How did you do this? And how did this happen?" And I'm like, it's the hands. They're my hands. However, there's other beings. There's a compilations of other beings and spirits that are moving those hands to press the buttons, to put the seeds, to touch the ground, to feel the earth, to feel the weather. You know what I'm saying? To understand, to be more in line with the universe. So I give thanks for that in this journey it's not from one thing to another. It's like a transition. It was almost like if I relate to animals a lot. So it was like I felt like I transformed from a wolf into a panther.
Okay.
People were like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm on the same level and it feels different, but there's a different adjustment. I'm a different animal, but the same beast."
Okay.
And that comes from Kobe Bryant. He said, he's a question he asked, he says, "Are you a different animal and the same beast?" And I really had to question myself, because I was feeling a shift in myself that, I felt like a different animal, you know what I mean? And it was uncomfortable. And so was I going to be the same rigorous panther that the wolf was, you know what I'm saying? Or was it about that? It was a tug of war in my own thought process of who I needed to be, but more importantly, how I needed to be in order to take the next steps to this next level of the journey, which is the Farmer Nell part. And so we have City Weeds. It was like 4 years of college that got put into that. Then you got Be More Green. That was the the graduate studies, getting the mastery, and then now furthering the education comes the Farmer Nell part, and that's the doctorate. That's the you know what I'm saying? So that adjustment, the City Weeds, Be More Green, was like, okay, these are the years of college that I didn't go back and put in. So I'm going to have to put them back into something. Let me create the something that I'm putting it back into. So now Farmer Nell, like you're interviewing Farmer Nell, you know what I'm saying? I'm live to the people. I'm in front of the people. So when that's a different transition, because I'm also Dominic now. I'm a person. I'm a human being. I'm someone that wakes up to aspire to be Farmer Nell. You know what I'm saying? So to keep myself humble and to not deal with the egos and all of the things, like Farmer Nell is like a suit that I put on every morning, or someone like when you accept Jesus Christ into your heart as a personal Lord and Savior type of interaction. It's like I've accepted Farmer Nell as the highest version of myself that my flesh can be. So yes, it's me. However, I can fall short of that. It's giving me, just like we can fall short of the grace of God, or however we choose to look at things. I use those same modalities to accept myself as my personal self, as my personal self and self. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, and I had to learn that through, going through the powwows, you know what I'm saying, with Native American. I had to learn that through going through churches on Sunday. I had to learn that through going to church on Saturday. worshiping on the Sabbath as well. So all of those things were just still modalities, like how I'm learning from City Seeds and learning from City Hydro. I always looked at how to combine whatever I learned from one way or another. I was always a like-minded thinker as opposed to an oppository thinker, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have a lot of, through research, I was watching a lot of videos, and one where you were off, it was one called Finding Justice with BET News, where it was off the record, and it was April 16, 2019, and you pretty much encompassed everything you just said to me about City Weeds and Be More Green, and they highlighted you in different way where you were social justice, you were a food justice advocate, an activist. When you moved, well, you didn't move, but when you got your building in 2020, was it 2020 or 20?
Yeah, it was around 2020 when we first, yeah.
And WMAR featured you, and you were talking about you were planting seeds into people. That was profound to me, because I have clients that actually come into your Be More Green store, seniors, children, families, because I do case management as well. So I send people where I know they're going to feel safe, they're going to feel welcome, and they're going to feel a part of. And you've changed their lives. Some were carnivores, strictly carnivores, and now they're talking about carrot dogs, and I eat carrot dogs, or I know how to do this, and they actually come to your Meatless Mondays at the Avenue, learning how to prepare food, just all these little pieces and how their health has dramatically changed. I've actually had some young people that actually came in and participated in the vendors, where you must have vendors that come out on a Saturday or something. Mm-hmm. Profound. Now they want to have their own businesses. So I actually was there when you were actually grilling carrot dogs. I had never heard of it before. I had actually shared with Sarah at that time. I was like, oh my goodness, I never even knew you could grill carrots. So, and then a lot of things like the food deserts, the things that you had said about the food deserts, and how Baltimore City, usually the ground has leaded it, and how you were able to use raised beds and still grow without, and told that you were sharing the information in Tidbits Live with Pastor Brown III from, oh my goodness, Black Church Food Security. I was actually in a workshop with him. So the way that you describe gardening, I have gardened. I have that kind of background. We had a farm. So every summer we had to go and pull the ox and all that kind of stuff. Did not like it at first, but I understood. I didn't understand everything when I was younger, but I could see that they were selling food. They were giving food away to people. And they made a nice business in South Carolina. We have family. We have a farm out in Sykesville, which is like a family farm, and grew all kinds of stuff. My stepmother they lived in West Baltimore, and she had a garden in the backyard, and she taught people, and it was neighbors who were growing. She would grow corn, green peppers. She was growing tomatoes, and then somebody else was green peppers or sorted yellow peppers, and someone else was doing radishes. And we would, help other people who didn't have food. They could come in and grab what they needed. And then the next year they would plant something, and we built a community within a community. And as a result, people took care of their homes, took care of their backyard. So it's like a a chain of a chain reaction. So in my opinion, you're that change agent. You came in and you came into a section of Baltimore that otherwise has been perceived sometimes as crime related. And that corner right there, you don't have the pharmaceutical sales rep. You don't even have the pharmaceutical sales rep across from you. It's a place where I've seen Be More Green as a place of refuge where people can come in and just be, but they're going to learn as a result. I see you as an investor in the community. Now, can you tell us some things about Meatless Mondays and what things happen at the Avenue?
I heard you say, could I tell you some things about something? But on my end, I'm having difficulty with the sound hearing you. I don't know
Okay.
if it's my phone or.
Oh, we've been having
Now I can hear. Now I can hear. Now.
Okay, perfect.
So can I tell you something about what now? You said?
Tell us about how your business has had a great impact in the communities that you serve, especially on that Pulaski North Avenue corridor.
Okay. I mean, I was over here tearing up a little bit just listening to you tell me about the impact that is made. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I'm telling you, but see, from the impact, one is that's a place that, usually people, when they get
for context, honestly, I don't know how to answer that because I don't even. All right, so let me be clear. Yes, I understand graphs, graphics, data, measurements, and seeing something with my eyes look a certain way and then look another way. I still don't think that I have earned the right to determine what has had an impact or not has had an impact when it's something that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's something that they're doing across the street, I feel as though I could be like, all right, well, this isn't having an impact the way that you designed it to. If you're asking me, does my stuff have an impact? I don't know how to answer that. Like honestly, if that makes sense. So I can say, well, yeah, 8 kids knew how to read, and now 38 kids know how to read. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that an impact? That might be like, okay, that was the goal we set. We set for 20 kids to learn how to read, and we exceeded that goal. Does the fact that we exceeded that goal, does that mean that had an impact? You know what I'm saying? It's still, so I'm a micromanager. So when I dissect things, just because I give out food does not make me a good man. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I want to be challenged at every single step of the way. So just because people are saying that they're doing these things now, I would play devil's advocate on my own self and say, well, does that mean that still doesn't mean anything? We're playing from so much behind that I train my mind that it's always more work to do, especially when you have an indicator that work has been done. So when I'm like, oh wow, like someone was listening, wow, I'm hearing things that you're reading, and yes, I'm aware of the stories and the videos and things of that nature. That's become more of the design of what Farmanelle and City Weeds and Be More Green is, because I am a photographer and a videographer. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about things that I'm not thinking like anyone else that would be looking at it, if that makes sense. So it's almost like this is the routine. This is the routine that I built for myself. This is the job that I do. The job includes doing these interviews. The job includes blah, 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 pictures, right? And it includes the stuff that's being done, but it almost becomes so routine to me that I prepared myself for it to not have an impact, so I don't jump into the harbor and lose myself over it not meeting the mark. So I'm always prepared for the pushback, the matter of fact. I'm always prepared for us as a people making excuses about how healthy lifestyles cost more. So I made it a point to just do as much as I can for free for the people. So they don't have to say anything about that part. You know what I mean? Like, I look at the excuses, and the excuses are based off of some reason, and then some of them are just downright excuses. Like, come on, man! I see the poor community wearing the most expensive hair and expensive shoes, and you tell me that you won't buy a beet juice for me that costs $10. It might have cost me $4-5 to make. I just want to flip it just like anything else I would sell on the corner. And so, with that being said, it's like I'm getting pushed back. Oh, juice! I can get 10 orange juices for $10. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, man, you didn't bought 10 horses and put them on your head, and that's no disrespect. I'm just making an observation. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, well, what's the science of this? And then when we're talking about we want better resources for our kids and school systems, I've taught in Baltimore City school system for the last 3 years, high school agriculture, first and second period for my first 2 years. So I'm seeing what these kids are coming to school with, putting in their bodies. And then now you want them to learn by drinking cold coffee and triple animal sandwiches. And you know what I'm saying? And then nobody wants to hear that. However, you want me to teach your child this. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you want your child to learn it a proper way, but you don't want to hear that giving him blueberries instead of, something from Royal Farms could actually help him improve his English score. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So making sure that I put the blenders and the juicers in the classroom, so there would be no excuse for no parent, for no teachers, for no school system. Like even the things that Baltimore City school system didn't do. Like how come I had 14 raised beds in a greenhouse that we're growing stuff in, and you mean to tell me we can't serve none of this stuff to the kids for lunch in the cafeteria? Like, what am I really doing? So I feel like stepping fence. I felt like I'm doing a song and dance and tap dancing. Hey, it's Farmer now, and it looks good. But like, so for me, I'm like, all right, this shit ain't, excuse my language, ain't having an impact. Like, this looks good. You know what I'm saying? And then even the awards I get, I'll be the first one to play devil's advocate. These are social media awards. Meaning if I didn't post it and take a picture of it, you wouldn't see it. To be able to backtrack, I understand that. So it's almost like I could have created Farmer No as a farce just by, hey, take a picture of me standing with this farmer hat on with some kids, and just kept doing that, and then they gonna give an award. Like, I had to remember things in rhymes. So there's a prick version of me that people might call an asshole, and that's more of the Nell, just like, and so, like, I'm like, when I got an award this past weekend, I strongly had to tame my smaller self down and just deal with the higher self. I'm like, all right, thankful for this award and this could work. But the smaller self was itching and was like, Negro, they keep giving you these awards, but nobody comes to the store. So, and then so I don't stand in that moment because I'm that same guy that like, they need to do this, they need to do that. The they is me. So that's going to be a call to action. So now my mind is thinking, well, how do I get the store to them? It's not enough that I give food away on Friday and Wednesday. That's not enough. How do I get these products in your household and you don't have to come to my store? You know what I'm saying? Like, let me reach and stretch as far as I can and push my brain to everything that I know in my being, you know what I'm saying, to make this happen. So because I can sleep at night knowing that I put my passions on the table, I put my passions on the field and everything that I've done. So the intelligence is just a byproduct of just encyclopedias and Googles, and just I have a hard time forgetting anything that I hear or see. So hence we have this, you know what I'm saying? How do I transform this big ball of information and experiences for somebody else's benefit? You know what I mean? Like, because or else it doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? It's just floating around to somebody, and it's going to lead you to a version of yourself, or it will lead me to a version of myself that I wouldn't like and wouldn't be able to live with. So a lot of this journey was so that I could be me, like be my true authentic me, and not have to search for a job or work with a tie and cut my beard off to be somebody that I didn't want to be, even though I'm very good at the work. I know there's at least 5 things modestly that I can do that I can make it close to 6 figures, if not more, that this brain knows how to do. The things that I'm choosing to do aren't those things. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. That's not the path that was set, nor the one that I chose. Time and time again, I made sure that I didn't choose that route. So now it puts me in this pathway. You know what I mean? So there's nothing but passion on this trail, and there's a lot of tears because it's the tears from the people that couldn't make it along the way of this journey. It's the tears of, you know, the people that didn't listen. It's the tears of the mistakes that I've made. You know what I'm saying? Like that I'm looking to, or the person I was next to that was damaging the community that I didn't do anything about. So I didn't do that. I never sold that. I didn't do that. But nigga, you ain't do nothing about it. You ain't stop it. So I feel like I'm, you know, righting the wrongs from, you know, the brothers that, or anybody that can't necessarily do it. And we see it. We see the vacant houses. We see the lots. We see the people leaning on the corner. We see brothers walking around with their pants sagging down. And we've accepted this, that this is life. Like young boys out there running the cars, trying to wash a window, that the car can do it itself. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not criticizing them. Like, all right, that's a poor man's hustle, young man. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather you sell waters on the corner. I'd rather give you $20 to buy a case of water and sell that. It could be purified. It could be anything that I'm not even going to agree with, because there's certain waters I drink, there's certain waters I don't drink. I would still respect that as a hustle, because the poor man's hustle of the squeegee window wiper is one step away from a panhandler. So if I say no to your service, then you're asking me for money. And so now your hustle has left me. The logic of your hustle has left, because what is the logic of 5 of y'all running up to my car and it might be raining outside? So where's the logic? Before I can make a joke and criticize my own little brothers and sons and grandsons and all of that stuff, I gotta put my brain into giving them, like, if I'm you, what am I thinking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the things I'm thinking about. I'm like, what can I do that I can make $50 an hour if in fact 50 cars aren't gonna give me $1 in an hour? You know what I mean? Something of that nature. And thinking of ways, how could I get them in front of my store when I'm doing an event and paying them $5. I mean, paying 5 of them $50 a piece to hold up a sign in front of my store, to run up the cars with information or fresh fruit or something, you know what I'm saying? And I'll pay you because I see the initiative to do something. You know what I'm saying? However, we have a lot of work to do. Like, there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that people need to have in the year to come in order to make these changes, because all that shit looks good on social media. And yes, I'm really doing the work. Yes, you can Google it and it's documented in chronological order. Sometimes I have to Google Farmer Nell in order to look back to see what I've done, because I'm so tunnel vision or so much in the field, or my version of it doesn't look like what people translate it from what they see. My version of it is like, damn, like they still not listening, or I need to do more, or I gotta expand it to environmental sciences. It's not about the food. We need clean air. We need clean water. We need clean land. You know what I'm saying? It's not just teaching in Baltimore City schools. Now I'll be teaching at the College of Southern Maryland this year. So it's also, you know, all of those things just kind of rolled around into one, and then keeping the lights on the store, keep paying the rent on the store, with the products not selling to make the draw. So I gotta pay somebody to operate the store so I can continue to do other things, and then pay for the products that are being sold out of the store, make products that are being sold out of the store only for, you know, shits and giggles, or only for a perfect picture. You know what I'm saying? And yes, please understand, I've had support along the way, and I'm definitely thankful for my regulars. I'm definitely thankful for the community and the people that we serve, because that's the front runner. We want to serve the community. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying I'm swimming upstream. I'm letting the people know that this is not a corner store that's thriving off the community in no way, shape, or form. This is a corner store that the community is thriving off of, and it's built and designed to be that way. So now I got to figure out more ways on how do I pay for this thing, and if y'all not gonna buy stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because that doesn't mean I'm not gonna sell it. That doesn't mean I'm gonna close down. That means that I have to do more. That means that I have to stay here another year longer and pay for rent another year longer. Maybe for y'all to get it. Maybe for this to be a thing where now people are coming there. Now it's a Baltimore staple. Now it's on the list of things to do when you go to Baltimore. You want to be more green. And Baltimore has a concept of being more green. You know what I'm saying? It's not about everybody being plant-based or vegan. It's about how much air, oxygen, how much water, H2O, and how much sunlight, photosynthesis, how much of that is in your food? How much of that is in what you're drinking? Because when we break down food as an equation, the first food that you deal with is water. You're in the womb. When you come out of the womb, the next food that you're dealing with is air, oxygen. And shortly after that, the lights in the hospital room or where you're born, you know what I'm saying, outside of the hospital, light, and then sunlight. So sunlight being light. So those are the three foods, the three first foods. So we want to define everything that we eat and how much of that does it contain. So when we're speaking of sunlight, we're talking about plants. When we're speaking about water, still talking about plants. You know what I'm saying? So as far as what we're doing, we're not talking about a leg of a rack of lamb. We're not talking about a chicken wing. You know what I'm saying? However, if we study what some of those beings eat that we eat, what do they eat? And so, yeah, they're the middleman of them. So what they're eating, we're getting the nutrients by middleman through them. And yeah, there's life. I'm all familiar with farming, hunting, fishing, cleaning the animal, cleaning the fish, removing all of the particles and all that nature. So I'm very adept when that's concerned to that. So I'm not just someone that grew up rigidly as just plant-based. It was very much a part of our lifestyle. However, I got the full spectrum of it. And with that being said, I don't have the stomach for that. However, I know most people, like when we had the pandemics, when we had the shutdowns, ain't nobody going out there killing no cow so they can eat steak. Ain't nobody really going out there chasing no chicken so they can, one, have eggs or chicken box, chicken wings, chicken sandwich, all that stuff that we covet and want so much. Most folks, when the shit was hit, no one has those skills. No one knows how to fish, how to crab, how to catch these things that we eat as a luxury and in abundance. You know what I mean? So challenging people with those things, like, okay, especially the Black community, we're living in the most luxurious times of our life. Like, you know what I'm saying? As far as what we're paying for everything along the way at a premium, everything. We spend the most money. So that has a lot to do with America, but it also has a lot to do with our laziness. You know what I'm saying? As a people. And yes, we're tired. We've been working for free for God knows how long in this country. And so even the work that they're giving us now isn't making up for what they took from us then. However, we still have a responsibility to pass down what Big Mama and them taught us. Like Big Mama and them worked with their hands. They cleaned clothes for them folks. Big Papa worked in that steel mill, or he did something with his hands to build something so their money and revenue could pay for you to go to school to learn something, so you wouldn't have to work with your hands anymore or do the hard work that they put in. And we kind of left that there. We left it, and then we forgot about education is the key to get us from hard work, hand-working work, to thought-provoking work. Now we just assume that, oh, we just got it, you know what I'm saying? Or if we've done it one time, we've graduated from it. You know what I'm saying? I'll show the cute, hey, we did that before. Okay, well, we're going to do this again. We're going to do this again and again until we know that. So I don't even have to say anything about it, and now you're doing it by second nature. So bringing back repetition as a learning modality is also a part of City Weeds, Be More Green, all of this stuff. I call it redundancy. However, someone on your side might look at it as this is consistency. Like, this man has consistently been doing and saying these things. And I'm like, man, I'm redundant. I need to come up with a new script. Like, some of this stuff I had to study and memorize in order to have interviews and conversations. So now I'm going into, like I said, environmental science. So broadening the spectrum of who and what Farm Ronell is to the people. And if there is a fan base or a young crowd watching, showing them that that if this isn't a real life superhero type of situation, showing them that it's tangible. It's not like you can be whatever Michael Jordan you want to be in whatever you want to do. You can be, that best player or that pinnacle of an entity in your own right. And you don't have to, and then the power to create something for yourself. And it doesn't have to have the community in mind. I just chose to be mindful of community, the plights of our people, and how it plays with Baltimore City and the history of Baltimore City with redlining and all of the things that come with that, because that's how we get to these food disparities and the food deserts comes from the redlining and the quality of products that come into the neighborhoods. Then when they displace the Cantonese that were living in Canton and moved them out of Canton into West Baltimore, they created a hierarchy of the Chinese would have the ownership of businesses in the black neighborhoods, hence the Chinese food stores in West Baltimore. Canton then opens up for the more immigrants, European immigrants that were brought, and you get your little Italies and your O'Donnells, your Italians, and your Irish, your Polish, even the Russians. So they cleared that. So all of those, this is historical. You know what I'm saying? Like, I live near Druid Hill Park and right near the Arch. And so it says it right there, 1860, Enoch Pratt, Winans, Latrobe, all of these familiar, so all these men that came together and built the Baltimore that we're living in with the equity slope disparities, with them on the higher bridge and with us on the lower slope. So once I started studying all of those things and the history and the occurrences, the socio-economical, the demographics, all these things play in part with the food desert and the food and the houses and the housing disparity, the vacant lots, the vacant houses, the blight, the environment. You know what I'm saying? People's depressions, traumas, microaggressions. Like, this isn't just a story of a man who decided to just give people some fruit. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole ingredient list to everything that I'm doing. It's a whole recipe to even the freestyle, like waking up today and not having something particular that I was set and going to talk about. And in my mind, I thought it was something that was going to be like 3 minutes. All right, they're going to ask me some questions. And so it gets kind of routine. It gets kind of routine with me. So I'm thankful that somebody is still listening and still watching. And since things happen in real time, that doesn't mean people get things in real time. So I feel as though the recognition or notoriety that I'm receiving now, I feel is from the work that I've done. The current work that I'm doing, it doesn't feel like it's work, or it doesn't feel like it's having a groundbreaking impact, because it's like when you ride a skateboard, you got to pedal, and then you're on the skateboard cruising. So I feel like I'm just moving on the skateboard, and it doesn't feel like I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? It feels like, it just feels differently for me. So the fact that people are paying attention to when I was pedaling on the skateboard to get up to that speed, I can accept that. But accepting it in the moment is difficult for me because there's so much more work to do, if that makes sense.
So what can, okay, so you were talking about your products. I've actually gotten some of your products. I just haven't been able to get down there like I want to now. But I've researched you, but I've seen you in action. I've seen you with the Food Project. I've seen you in different places with giving away at the school. The one on Pulaski for 400 block, 424, 426.
Yeah, 424 South Pulaski.
Yes. So that's where my clients come. They're coming with their, my seniors come, and if it, and hearing them, if this wasn't here, what would I do? So I always believe in giving people their roses, because you have been doing this. But I also look at your team. I know a lot of your teammates. Good people always stick together. Workers do together. Finishers, completers, impactors, change agents. And your team is just that, individually and together. So, you actually did, what was that? Was it 2020? You actually spoke to some of our youth from the Initiative Baltimore. They had no idea. Yep, had no idea. I mean, they knew they were coming. They researched. They did some minute research, but you were impactful for them. You know what I mean? They talked about that still. I mean, some of them have graduated from high school and are going to college, but a lot of them were like, I never realized food was like this. You know what I mean? So you have changed the mindset about food, but you also, I mean, yes, plant-based, healthy eating. I was talking to, I have a couple young ladies that have come down and gotten food, and the way they prepare it, the way that they, because they didn't know how to cook. I'm just being honest with you. The food you was giving to them, somebody else had to cook it for them. Now they're proactive and they're conscientious about what they're putting into their body, but also their children's body. School is coming up. At one time, they were not sending healthy treats with their kids, or how their kids are eating dehydrated fruit, this and this. I mean, all kinds of different things. So drinking juices, what is it called? I can't even think of the pressing, where you press, what is it?
Oh, cold press.
Yeah.
Cold
so,
press.
Things that they never, I'm like, where did you get that from? Oh, I was down at Be More Green. I was down here. I learned about this. I was grilling this. And I'm like, okay. So you are making an impact, but not only are you making an impact with them, but now they're making an impact with others. Because now their whole, because I have a couple friends that have come down there, did not know how to cook, did not know how to, they know how to grill, burn food, but just now, like the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, everything changed. Things changed. Microgreens. I went and got this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, oh, okay. Their whole conversation has changed. How can someone become a volunteer? How come somebody patronize your products?
So as far as volunteering opportunities, we do giveaways. At Be More Green, 2036 West North Avenue. That's every Friday at 12 noon.
Okay.
We also.
What time should they be here? What time should they be
11:30 is good. So there could be, and from that, we pretty much have it it's community driven. So we don't necessarily have set volunteers, so sometimes the community that's waiting for the food will help off with the offload. So it's always good to have an extra hand. If someone wanted to, what I'm looking to do now is to have more attainable resources in
Mhm.
addition to the food. So if somebody has voter registration, or there's organizations that are out there that are very smart, smarter than I am, because they only focus on doing one thing. And so we need like straight shooters like that. Like if it was like sports or basketball, like I can do a lot of things on the court. Um, but then you have some people that they just good shooters. They you catching the ball and they gonna shoot it from anywhere. So we definitely need shooters. We definitely need people that want to do the dirty work and just, hey, I just want to help and do something physical. So we invite that. And my phone is shutting down.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, my phone is about to cut off. So
Okay, so now, okay, so I want to do something because I do. I want to. Are you still there with me? He's shutting down. Okay, well, for me now, I will. I can actually come out and volunteer and help people with BGE assistance. It has been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope that we can connect so that we can get the information about your programs out here. And thank you for joining me for Community Connections and Resources.